All right, so it's going to be time for another EV road trip. So basically, the situation here is that my sister's husband's father died, and so I'm going to be traveling at the memorial service and driving across Pennsylvania and into New York. The service is going to be in eastern New York, upstate New York. But there's also another thing going on, which is that my mom, who's in her 80s, normally my sister would be the one to give her rides places, and instead, they're busy with all the rest of this. So that's not going to work. So instead, I'm actually just going to drive from home in Pittsburgh to Port Jefferson, New York, where I grew up, and do that on Friday. It should be about seven and change hour trip, although we do go through New York City, but it's also going to be July 4th, so no rush hour. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. The second part of that is going to be we'll charge at an L2 on overnight at Charge Point right down the street from where my mom lives in Port Jefferson. And Saturday morning, you should be able to go up to where the service is going to be held. And it turns out that there's actually probably an L2 charger that I can access, and we're going to stay nearby there overnight. And then Sunday morning, I'll drive back down to Port Jeff and drive all the way home to Pittsburgh. And I've decided that I'm going to take the Pennsylvania Turnpike this time, just for variety. I've been taking a lot of I-80 recently, which is really the way up to New England. But in this case, going through New York City and into Long Island, really it's a toss-up either way. Just minutes difference between the Pennsylvania Turnpike and the I-80 route. PA Turnpike to Harrisburg, I-78 up to New York City. So yeah, it is what it is. It's not a trip that anybody wants to have to make for a funeral, but I'm happily really eager to help out my mom, and it should be a nice trip. All right, so we're on our way up. We're headed up the PA Turnpike. Basic, pretty easy. Should be a little traffic on along this part. We're going to go up and over some mountains, through some tunnels, and down to our first stop, which is going to be at this point in a little over 2 hours. Typical for EV road trip, the first leg is kind of the longest leg. That's happening because you're starting out with 100%, and later you're going to go ahead and charge really probably much less than that, maybe 80 or 90% at the max, which means for a shorter leg. Right now, the onboard route planner basically says that we're going to arrive with like 1% battery. That's not realistic. ABRP, which I'm currently have hooked up with Bluetooth dongle, so it's getting like calibrated information. I'm trying to get a good calibrated information, because the first time I did that, I felt like I got some bad info. But that ABRP value says we'd arrive with like 22%. So these are widely divergent values. Should expect to see that the onboard route planner will increase the arrival percentage as we get closer. I think it's just adding a little bit of conservatism for every mile, and so when you're really stretching the range from 100% all the way down to 20%, then it's being way too conservative and saying you'll arrive with like 1%. And as you get closer, it increases. through the last of 4 different tunnels on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and we got about a little more than 25 minutes to go to our first stop. I'm at 34% battery right now, so we're in super good shape. The route planner obviously not correct, saying that we'd get in with 3%. The route planner now says that we'll get in with 19%, which obviously that is closer to reality. I think ABRP 24%, so I think that's probably going to be closest to reality. We'll see, that could be a little bit low. We need to go 26 miles and in 10%, maybe. We'll see. It could be a little bit lower than that, what ABRP says. 25 minutes to go. I've been driving for 2 hours and 15 minutes, listened to a couple podcasts. It's generally been pretty easy traffic. There's been 0 traffic, typical Pennsylvania Turnpike experience. And yeah, pretty much just cruising along at 75 to 77 with the rest of traffic here. And great driving. Alright, let's come on out. Let's see what we got here. Alright, this thing should be auto charge, so it should just work. Let's see what we got. Good old EV Go. As soon as we got a charge going, I'm going to run and go to the bathroom because we're only going to be here for about 5 or 6 minutes, I think. And then we're going to go to another Flying J right down the road. Idea here is to hit both of them. Alright, we seem to be starting. Alright, 22, 35, 42. Alright, great, let's go. Let's go get some snacks. All right, here we are, 58. We're way above where we wanted to be. I had to wait in line to check out and used a little more. Slide that back in there. All right, so you can see we're now using some energy to cool the battery down. It's about 83 degrees outside. So that was a perfect charging stop, except for one thing. I could have charged a little bit less, and I was rushed. I mean, 8 minutes that we were actually charging. Just literally ran in, went to the bathroom, and got myself a coffee. And if I hadn't had to wait in line for about a minute, that would have been a little bit closer to the perfect departure. Right now, it says we're going to arrive in with like 33%, so it's a little bit higher than what I sort of needed to do to leave there. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, no big deal. We were still going perfectly great speeds, I think, pretty much the whole way. 8 minutes to add over 25 kilowatt hours. It's an excellent pace of adding energy into the car. This next leg's super short. 45 miles. Just going to be a really quick jaunt down to that next Flying J, and then from there we'll do a deeper charge up into 84, 85%, maybe as much as that, or maybe closer to 80% if I'm ready to go. We'll see. But the idea here is basically just charge enough that I can make my way all the way through New York City and to my mom's house without having to charge again. There's L2 charging right down the hill from where she is, so we can get the car charging back up pretty much immediately when I arrive. And I think that that's sort of the best of available options to try to try to do that. We can arrive pretty low, maybe even not even go past 80%. So yeah, that's the idea. Everything's going great so far. We got one of 2 charging stops along this route in the bag already. It was super easy. The usual EVgo Flying J experience. You just plug the car in, auto charge starts, make sure that it's going, and then walk inside and start doing your business, which is in this case super simple. There's some prepared food if you wanted food. There's Denny's if you really wanted to sit down and eat. All right, so we are like 13 or some odd miles out from where we're going to stop next. Remember, these 2 shortly closed-paced, and this one's going to be another Flying J. I'm going to grab a real quick burger or something for myself to eat at this one, and maybe another coffee. We'll go charge deeper into the pack this time, get up as far as 85%, maybe even 90%. I'll make sure my charge limit's set to 90, which is usually where I leave it. That way, if we need to charge, if it takes me a little longer to get back to the car, then we're putting productive energy into the battery pack rather than just having the car sit there idle after it's done with its charge. Now, the rest of our drive is I-78 to New York City and then through New York. So there's one other possibility here. So these were really just too close together. So if we don't have a leg of at least 1 hour in between charging stops, then we did get the battery cooled down, but the problem here is just that it's too quick of a stop. Like, I couldn't get back to the car in less than 8 minutes, and I already added too much energy to make it to that next stop. So really, the problem here comes down to, if I was not getting out of the car and I could really make a 4-minute stop or 5-minute stop, then it would work. But if not, it's just, once you're getting out of the car, it's too much time. The car charges too fast. So yeah, I think we are going to be a little bit below 38% because we're at 41 now and we still have 9 miles to go. Don't think it's like the end of the world or anything. Just AVRP is overestimating my arrival percentage. The onboard route planner underestimates it. We're typically somewhere in the middle. Most of the change in arrival percentages throughout the drive is coming from the onboard route planner. AVRP is pretty close. It's within a couple percent from the beginning of the drive, but it is off by a couple percent, often towards the end. And that does make me a little bit nervous about going just to 80% for that last leg, because it's such a long leg. The onboard route planner is certainly going to say that we can't make it through much of that. Even if I charge to 90%, it thinks we get in with 1%. So realistically, we would probably get in with 10%. Yeah. See this kicked off, and then we'll go inside. In this case, we're gonna let this one ride and crank. Looks like there's a Rivian over there. All right, we're like 11 minutes in. Still cranking the power in. 135, 80%. We're gonna watch that where it is. Just take a couple more minutes here, but it's really all we want to do. 81, let's see, are we gonna get past 80 without a Korean siesta? Oh my, 124, 12 minutes. Hey, as long as we're still getting this good of a charge rate, let's just keep it there. We could get all the way up to 85% without really seeing much of a delay. That seems perfect. 12 minutes. looks like there's probably going to be a little bit more traffic than what ABRP says by like 30 minutes. So we could get there closer to 5 than 4:30, but honestly, that's excellent. All right, so we're at 84%. We're still going 93 kilowatts. Yeah, let's just let that sneak in a little bit more here, as long as we still have quite a good power rate here, because it's going to be faster than stopping again. All right, we'll end that session short. All right, so we got kind of interesting situation. I wanted to get out of there before we got our state of charge up too high and the charge rate started slowing down. The car currently thinks that we could barely make it per the guessometer range, and it does not think that we will make it all the way to Port Jeff with that. But we're going to be slowing down and hitting traffic as we get closer. So TBD. We also, 10 miles short and even shorter than that, we have quite a few options to step through and try if I start to get to the point where I'm nervous about how much energy we have. I can also always slow down a little bit, and we could see how that goes. But yeah, we got options right now. ABRP thinks we'll arrive with 14%, which is right on track with what it's been saying all along. So we'll see if ABRP is right, or if the car is right. It knows that we're going to slow down and there's going to be traffic, and the temperatures are pretty much ideal at 74. 3 hours and 25 minutes of driving in the books. We left at 9:20, and it's now 1:13. 1 8-minute stop and 1 14-minute stop. A little over 20 minutes total. Pretty good. Pretty good. My two worries are that it's going to be a long time before I get to go to the bathroom. So we'll see if I have a problem with that. And the other is just worried about, whether I'm going to need to charge a little bit more. Did I miscalculate that or not? If I did, it's all good. Plenty of options to stop. If I didn't, we'll make it perfectly. ABRP's right. If we arrive with like 10 or 13%, should be fine. We're going to be consuming a little bit of extra energy right now here to cool the battery, but it doesn't even look like that much right now. We're using about 1 kilowatt to do that. Kutztown exit. I'm at 73% battery, which means I've gone through slightly more than 10% battery going between the previous stop and this one. So that would have been an ideal stopping point for the Flying J in the Carlisle area, right by the I-81 PA Turnpike interchange, and then come all the way up here to Kutztown, 30 miles past where I stopped before. If we charged up to 80% or 90% in the winter, leaving Kutztown, then I think that we'd be in very good shape to make it all the way to New York City. So that's definitely a better stop interval. That location is going to be a Sheetz, and it's going to be Iona, or Iona, depending on how you want to say it. This is a new entrant to the market, formed by a bunch of automakers. They seem to really get it. They're installing great equipment and deploying things quickly. So this location is not open yet, but I think they are fences up, like the construction is happening already. And that seems like an ideal pair of stops. So, add an extra 30 minutes. So we ended up with an hour 15, hour 20 minute between Carlisle and Kutztown. If we were at 80%, I would feel very comfortable about where we are. As it is, I'm not feeling like I'm 100% sure that I'm going to make it without a stop. ABRP says 14%. The route planner does not say that, and the guessometer seems to indicate that I will arrive with just 3 miles remaining, which is cutting it way, way, way too close for my comfort, and I don't like that. Got lots of options to stop if we need to stop. We'll stop at the Simon Mall along 347 or somewhere else in New York City along the way. There's just tons of options. I'm not worried about making it. I'm just worried about whether I could you know, whether I screwed up my plan here, and if I had spent an extra minute or two at the Flying J, then I could have, you know, been in a different situation if I'd let that ride all the way up to 90%. So, yep, maybe that was a mistake. We shall see. Efficiency should be getting much better for this leg. So far, it's been like 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour, which is low, as 4% of our energy so far has been going to cooling the battery, and it looks like we're pretty much done with that at this point. It's no longer consuming any energy towards that. My hope is that that will mean we'll see the gasometer start to increase the spread a little bit more. Also going to be slowing down as we get closer to New York City. We'll be going downhill too. So those are all factors that mean that we're probably going to see better efficiency coming into there. And I think my hope is that it means we'll still make it. So the other thing that's going on is that ABRP says we'll get there at like 4:30, and the car thinks 5:45, which is obviously wildly divergent. One of these two entities seems to have a handle on New York City traffic, and maybe the other one doesn't. I don't know what to expect in terms of New York City traffic today, because we have a 4th of July holiday. It's the 4th of July, and that means not a normal workday, which generally would mean that traffic is less. On the other hand, it's also a holiday, and so there may be traffic that will be there that would not otherwise be there because of the holiday. All right, we are just about to cross into New Jersey, and I'm a little bit happier about exactly state of charge wise. So ABRP switched up to saying briefly 15% on arrival. So it's not steadily moving down or anything. And we've got a few more. Now we're up to 7 miles buffer on arrival. So I'll keep up, you know, I'm pretty much keeping up with traffic, but I could go faster and still not feel like I was about to get pulled over. So I'll probably start doing that. I still don't know what's going to go on with traffic because ABRP and the car's navigation give me like a 1 hour difference in ETA, so I suspect it'll be somewhere in between those two, maybe closer to 5 than 4:30, but probably not 5:45. We'll see. All right, here we go. We're about to cross over into New Jersey after 4 hours, 21 minutes, and 294 miles of driving. There it is, the Delaware River. Really pretty easy driving so far, huh? Speed limit's still 65, but just crank it over, we're going 70. No heroics, we don't have to go the speed limit to make we can always slow down later. Now we're up to 5, 6, 7 miles of range gasometer buffer. Efficiency's way up after we came back down from that sort of Allentown hill as well. That's probably another factor there in that number getting a little bit scary low. Well, I'll let you know if we start to see the onboard route planner tell me that I'll arrive with more than 0% and when exactly how far out that is. We still got certainly a ways to go. I mean, 134 miles, so more than 2 hours of driving. Cruising through New York out there, cruising through Jersey. Quite confident now in making it, as the route planner now says we arrive with 6%. So the descent and the slower speeds, if that coming in to the city here, seems better. Also, my ETA is going down in the onboard route planner and basically the same in ABRP 430. I think what's going on there is just that there's way less traffic than anticipated because it's July 4th. So the route planner is assuming that I'm going a little bit slower, and that's just not the case today. There's not really any traffic. There would normally be a lot of traffic here, and there's not. Got some tolls coming up, and then we're going to go through a series of New York bridges. So I got about 70 miles to go, 67 miles, and it's going to be a little bit slower, going to be maybe an hour and 20. To Northern State Parkway. This is our last highway road. No trucks on this road because when these roads were built by a man called Robert Moses, he was interested in keeping the poor people from taking buses to the beaches. And today is a bit of a beach day because it's July 4th. The Long Island Expressway was indeed very crowded and had a lot of traffic that kind of peeled off right about the time that people would be going to Jones Beach. So definitely some 4th of July traffic there exiting the city. We're just cruising along here. It's 55 mile an hour road. We're going 59. So, you know, this is perfectly reasonable flow of traffic here on the Northern State Parkway. It's about 28 miles to go, and it's actually almost 50 minutes, 45 minutes to do that. We're going to go through the rest of this, and then we'll hit a road with some lights on it for that last part into Port Jefferson. I think we're going to be fine. I was a little worried about making it, but right now it looks like we're going to roll in with about 10% battery or so, and that sounds great to me. So no worries about battery life. We've made it. It's perfectly fine. Not going to be an issue. I love it. Just perfect conditions today. If it was winter time, we would have need to made an extra stop. But I also noticed that the New Jersey Turnpike now has their rest areas open with all Apple Green electric chargers, and that's an option. So I could have chosen to do a Turnpike rest area charger. I think it may not even be on ABRP yet, but that would be a good solution to have minimized total trip time, I think, because I could have turned maybe one more 5-minute splash and dash out by the Turnpike area and saved, you know, slightly more than 5 minutes back at the Pilot Flying J. On the other hand, you know, we already had a pretty damn optimized trip in terms of charging stops, so it's hard to do better than what we already did here. Traffic has impacted us by more than any lack of charging stop optimization for sure.
The destination is on your right.
All right, so we made it. 7 hours driving. I just drove down the hill from dropping my stuff off at my mom's. 10% battery. We're gonna roll in with about 10% battery. 10% battery is perfect. Nailed it coming in. So right now, I need to find my little, here it is, my little charge point card so that I can start charge point. And this is going to be a very convenient spot right down the street from my mom's. No matter what we actually get to here, it's going to be perfectly fine. 12 hours even. Gotta pack up this stuff and then we'll go hang out with my mom for a bit while the car charges up in the morning. I'm gonna go drive to Turnpike, New York in upstate New York, in the eastern part of upstate New York. Be up there for a memorial service and then stay up there overnight, come back here on Sunday and drive home. Should be another easy drive back home. All right, we're back on the road after a couple days trip up from Port Jefferson to Turnpike, New York, and then back down. I'm headed back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I do have one little interesting wrinkle. If I could charge to 100% before leaving Port Jefferson, then I could go all the way back to the Flying J that I stopped at on my way, which is a long leg through New York, all the way outside of New York into central Pennsylvania before I have to make a charge. Well, that was not going to happen because my brilliant plan was charge most of the way up at an EA as we came back into Port Jefferson from upstate New York, coming back from the funeral. Well, yeah, I charged up at EA, classic EA things. The rate was a maximum of 140 kilowatts, and the price was cheap, but the speeds were not fast. My brilliant plan had been charge up to 70% and then go hit that same L2 charger that's right down the street from my mom. The thing is, they were all taken. All 6 L2 ports in the whole town of Port Jefferson. I checked them all, every single one taken. It's a beautiful day. It's like 90 degrees out. Lots of people visiting Port Jeff and enjoying the farmers market and all kinds of things like that. It was just crowded. It's hard to fault people for enjoying their EVs and using chargers. So these people were not, they're not icing the chargers, idling at them. They're actually charging. I can't fault anybody for that. So instead of leaving with 100%, I'm leaving with 68. And I picked one earlier spot, which is still way outside of the city, but it's a Home Depot in Trexlertown, basically outside Allentown, Pennsylvania. You know, it seems like that's going to be a perfectly suitable stop. And my only worry is, will I make it all the way there? It is a hot day. It's 90 degrees outside according to the car. I think it might be a little bit cooler than that, not in the shade. And we're still spending a little bit of energy to cool the battery down from the last fast charge. So we're gonna end up using a bunch of energy. ABRP says we arrive at that Home Depot with 9%. That seems a little tight for me, but hey, if we arrive with 9%, then it'll do. And we'll charge there and then continue the rest of the stops as expected. But there's so many options to stop at before that point. I have zero concerns about making any of them. It's really just a question of, do I end up stopping somewhere that's suboptimal that I didn't necessarily plan on, rather than, someplace that was sort of optimal. All right, we're on the highway now. We're on the Long Island Expressway, 495, headed in towards the city. And I would say that there's some pretty heavy traffic, which is great for our plan of making it to the charging station in Trexlertown, Pennsylvania. Just because there's a lot of traffic, it's keeping things relatively slow. And we got a lot of cars around us pushing the air out of the way. So we're sort of drafting everybody's around us. Actually watched the ABRP arrival estimate go up from 8% on up to 12% just now, and looks to me like the gasometer gap is also similarly getting better. So we'll keep an eye on that. I will watch my speed and plan to arrive with greater than 0%. That's my plan. We'll see how it goes. So, as you can see through some of the video there, the unusual thing happened, and it turns out that basically, because there was so much traffic all around New York City, the quickest thing to do is to do the shortest route, which is to go directly through the middle of Manhattan, which is not particularly slow, but if you're averaging about 20 miles an hour on any highway, then going the shorter distance is less time. So that's what we did, and a little bit of an adventure going through Midtown Manhattan, and went through the Queens Midtown Tunnel and then the Lincoln Tunnel to get to New Jersey, along with many, many other people here. And now we're cruising up the I-78 express lanes out of New Jersey, headed back towards Pennsylvania. ABRP still says I will arrive with 12%. I'm perfectly happy with that. I suspect it will go down a few percent as we get to the closer to the destination. So far, the route planner does not indicate any arrival percentage, so it thinks that we'll arrive below 0. But we've got a solid 35 miles of guessometer range buffer, and I think that a lot of that's going to disappear pretty soon as we start climbing up the hill here and going faster, but cautiously optimistic that everything is fine and we'll have no problem making it to the Home Depot in Trexlertown. All right, with about 64 miles to go to the EVgo in Trexlertown at the Home Depot, the onboard route planner just moved off of unknown arrival percentage and now says 1%. So that's good enough for me. I sped up a little bit. We'll just hold it right here and see what ABRP does as we get closer. Probably the onboard route planner will go up a few percent. Like I said, as long as I get in with, if I get in with 5%, I'm very happy. If I get in with 1%, I'm happy. We'll be there. We'll plug it in. We'll see what we get. All right, that was a long, long leg. New York, and we got in with 8%, maybe 7% battery. Let's see where we're at once we're going. It is hot, 92 degrees out. We're doing a real shallow charge right here. Good old Oleg. Great example of a not very ideal stop. It's a Home Depot, which doesn't have 24-hour bathrooms, doesn't have snacks, doesn't have coffee. All good, but %. All right, let's let that ramp up. We're only gonna go to like 35 here. Halfway between our two stops. It's only 45 minutes or so between those two stops. I'm gonna make this stop. I could have stayed longer at the Home Depot, but just having a little bit of fun with doing some extra charges. Slow down in the pack here, seeing if we can flex those fast battery charge rates. My original plan was to go all the way from Port Jeff to this stop, and that was what I was not able to do because I wasn't able to get that final bit of charge before leaving Port Jeff. Car's performing great. Drive's been good. It is hot. It's in the 90s. Other than that, everything is going great. Cranking along, rolling over the miles, cruising a little faster now. Got plenty of battery. Not arriving with single digits. I think we'll be arriving with teens percent. And we'll get it done. So one more quick charge here, and then another Flying J, and then finally the Sheets in Bedford, an EA stop. Hopefully better luck than the past EA stop I had today. Unfortunately, I forgot to get any footage of that stop. So I pulled in, and there was a Polestar sharing the charger that I plugged into. And I plugged in, and I knew that I would be limited to about 180, I think is the max when there's sharing going on with these EVgo units. So I figured maybe it'd be a little bit delayed, but in fact the Polestar unplugged by the time I got back out from grabbing a snack at the inside, and the whole charge was still only 5 minutes from plugging in at like 13-14% on up to 35%, just 5 minutes. The charge was done by the time I got out. I was figuring I might have a little bit more time to talk about the power sharing. So the way that power sharing works at the EVgo units is that the unit itself has two plugs and 350 kilowatts of charging capacity that is spread across the two plugs. And the way that you share is you just get half and half. So if no one's plugged in on the other side, you can use up to the full 350 kilowatts. If someone's plugged in, you get half. There's no dynamic load sharing where, if somebody is using way less than 180, then you get more. I don't think it does that. We're cranking along. We're going great. 17% remaining at our destination is what we expect from ABRP. That's obviously fine. I could have cut that. I could have cut that even shorter. Oh my God, I love it. I could have cut that down to a 5-minute stop, 4-minute stop, just in and out, pee and back out and get back on the road. I love it. So we're sort of cranking these out of spec styles. So if you've watched out of spec motors on out of spec reviews, out of spec motoring, etc., any of their YouTube channels, you'll know that they really like super quick stops. They would really like to get back on the road and arrive as low as possible and charge as little as possible, so they arrive in with that. I don't necessarily think this is the fastest or best way to travel in this car. I would say that Out of Spec is a fairly Tesla-biased organization, and that they really love Tesla. They started out driving Tesla, and they're very attached to the way that Teslas drive and charge. And so the reality of Tesla charging is that initial burst of power low down is the highest rate that you're going to get right when you first plug in, and it will probably never be as good as that later on. And this is simply not how this car charges. So when you plug in super low in this car, like 5%, it's actually going to be a little bit lower charge rate because the voltage is a little lower and you still have the same amperage limit. So you're only going to get maybe 230 rather than 240 kilowatts. That's not a huge difference, but it does make a difference. And then the bigger thing is that this car charges still very fast high up. So it's still maintaining that 240 kilowatt charge rate all the way up until maybe 50-55% before it starts to taper off down to still a pretty high charge rate. That just doesn't match the Tesla charging behavior, and it means that really you should try to charge more up towards 50%, and I could have done that and skipped this stop. I don't know, I'm just doing it a different way today for the sake of variety. And I've done a lot of driving today already, so some quicker stops where you're only driving 45 minutes to an hour is kind of nice. That's all. All right, gonna try to make up for the last one here with this. We got arrived at 16. All right, there we go. We're off to the races. Let's go grab some coffee and a quick bathroom and maybe a little bit more of a snack. All right, we're all done. 53%. And onboard route planner says we'll get there with 2.
plenty good. Let's get on the way and get ourselves to that last stop, maybe grab some coffee there and get home. So we got about 10, maybe 12 minutes to go to Bedford, and the sun is going down, so I'll shed my sunglasses at this next stop, and we'll see if I can get any more usable footage. 17% battery here, and ABRP estimates 12% on arrival. We'll see what we hit, but either way, it's just perfect. We just passed the Breezewood exit, and that's cool because there's now an open Rivian charger there, and that means we got options because you can come upon this and say, well, can I go 10 more percent? And if I can go 10 more percent, then I can go to Bedford, and if not, I can charge up at the Rivian charger. So like, this is great. Like, probably gonna get one more coffee and go to the bathroom at this Sheetz, and we're gonna be good to go all the way home. It's funny, this side we have a lot of hills, and the thing about the hills is we're really burning a lot more battery going up this side. So the last charge we left with 50% battery, and we only drove like an hour. And then we're going to leave the Sheetz with 50% battery too, but we're going to drive like an hour and 40 minutes. We're going to get 40 extra minutes of driving with the same amount of battery, and that's just because speed will be a little bit slower as we come into Pittsburgh, but also it's the fact that just we're going downhill. All right, so I'm here at the Sheetz in Bedford, and it is a full house. So unfortunately, these are balanced chargers, so we're not getting quite as good a rate. We're only getting 179 kilowatts. I mean, that's still excellent, so whatever. Charge time 6 minutes, 18.5 kilowatt hours already. So we're only going up to 50%. That'll take me all the way home. Interesting thing about these locations is this is one of the rare places where EA has a congestion reduction pilot, meaning that they limit state of charge here to 85%, and this is to prevent people from charging up to 100%, which they used to do. It takes ages to charge up to 100%, and it's pointless when there's chargers everywhere else along the way. But a lot of people don't understand that, and we used to have EA is like renowned for all this kind of poor behavior around free charging and so on. Good. Over here real quick, and you can see full house.